Alrighty. So for the final exam, which will be, I'll find the date in just a moment. Um, but there are going to be 30 questions. There's going to be 105 minutes. And that's basically it. So you have one attempt on it. It's going to be through HonorLock, which I'll be creating. And the day to take this final exam. I saw that you had typed in the chat box. I just want to make sure that that's correct. I believe it's supposed to be the last day of class, which the last day of class is December 11th. So it's going to be 12/11 at 5:30 p.m. And I know that I said that's when the time of the exam is. Since I'm going to be using HonorLock, I may or may not enforce that. But I know that this is the last time that you can take the exam, for sure. If you do not take it on that Friday, it will not be graded, and your grade will be essentially whatever your grade is without the final exam as a 0. So let's go ahead and work through these problems. Now, this final exam, by the way, is cumulative. So that means that it's going to cover topics from everything we've done this entire semester. Okay. So first question says, use the rule for order of operations to simplify the expression as much as possible. So we have 4 times 9 times 5 minus 7 plus 3 times 7 times 8 minus 41. And at any point, if you have a question about anything I did, please just let me know. This review really is for your sake, not for mine. So feel free to pause me if you need me to slow down or something. Just let me know. So order of operations, we've been using it the entire semester together, is PEMDAS. And our goal is to simplify everything that's in the parentheses first, and then from there, we can do the rest of it. So inside the parentheses, go ahead and I guess I can spotlight myself. Sure, why not? Nope. What is it doing? I feel like this iPad must have updated or something because like it just doesn't like to allow me to use the whiteboard and also use my video. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. just trying to make it less awkward for you to watch me. Okay, there we go. Finally. And now I have to write the question down again, but that's okay. Alrighty. Good. So inside these parentheses, the first thing we're going to want to do, and I'm going to go ahead and underline the steps in red. That way you can see what we're doing as we're doing it. So we're first going to do the 9 times 5 and the 7 times 8, because inside the parentheses, those are the first operations you want to do. So we have 45 minus 7, bring down this 4, plus 3 times 7 times 8, we get, oh God, 56, minus 41. Now inside these parentheses, we're going to subtract. So we're going to subtract here and subtract here. We end up with 45 minus 7 is 38. 56 minus 41 is 7. Oh, what am I saying? Jeez. I'm doing good today. 15. And now at this point, we can multiply these. So 4 times 38 is 152, I believe. Sounds about right. And 3 times 15 is 45. So last step, add up your two numbers, and you end up with 197. Does anyone have any questions about that before we move on to the next one? Okay, number 2. This one wants us to solve. So we have 11x minus 8 equals 10 times x plus 6 plus 9. Okay. So first thing we need to do is make sure that everything on both sides of the equation is simplified as much as possible. So we're going to want to, on the right-hand side, distribute this 10. That way we don't have any of these parentheses to worry about. So we're going to now have 10x plus 60 and then we bring everything else down. Okay. Next, on the right-hand side, we need to add up the 60 and the 9 to get 69. Bring down the 10x. All right, so what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to move that 10x over to the left by subtracting. So this 10x and this negative 10x, those cancel, and we get x minus 8 equals 69. And now we can subtract or add the 8 to both sides. Those 8s will cancel. You end up with x equals 78. You're right, it's 77. I'm just like totally out of it today. Apparently my ability to add is not here today or something. I don't know. Thank you for correcting that. Okay, any questions on that one? Just feel really sick all of a sudden. All right, well, we will move on to number 3. So number 3 actually wants us to plug a couple of things into an expression. So our expression is 7. Actually, you know what? Let me write down what the variables are first. So we've got x equals 4, y equals 3, and then z equals 6. And our expression is 7 times 5x minus y squared plus 9z. And this question just wants us to plug the numbers in and then go through the steps to simplify it. So we're going to have 7 times 7. I'm going to go ahead and put the numbers all in red. X is 4 minus y is 3 squared plus 9 times z, which is 6. And now at this point, we follow ordered operations the same way we did with the other problems. So inside the parentheses, we're going to do 5 times 4 first. And that's going to give us 7 times 20 minus 3 squared plus 9 times 6. Then we do 20 minus 3, which gives us 17 squared times 7 plus 9 times 6. We do the square next, which 17 squared, I think it's like 3, maybe not, 289? I don't remember. Oh, it is 289, okay. So we get 7 times 289 plus 9 times 6. Multiply each of these. And I, of course, ran out of room, so I'll put a new whiteboard. We get 20, 23 plus 9 times 6 is 54. And now we can add these up to get 2077, which should be your answer. Does anyone have any questions on that one before we move on? All right, so let's move on to number 4. This one also wants us to solve. And by the way, as I'm doing these, if you want to work ahead, you are more than free to. So when I write down the problem, if you want to just do it yourself, go for it. So we have x minus 7 over 10 equals 1 over 5. Now, the way that I showed y'all to do this, and you don't have to do it this way, but it was the way that I showed you kind of as a shortcut method, was to find your LCD and then multiply everything by that LCD. So find the LCD and then multiply. Well, actually, no, we just got the LCD and then we canceled it out, didn't we? Yeah, we canceled out the denominator. So the LCD in this case is going to actually be 10. So what we want to do is put x over 1 and multiply it by 10. 10 doesn't need to get multiplied, but 5 does by 2. Okay, so we have 10x over 10 minus 7 over 10 equals 2 over 10. And at this point, what we can do is cancel out all of those denominators. So you're really left off with 10x minus 7 equals 2. And now this is a regular two-step equation. So we add 7 to both sides, which cancels out here. You get 10x equals 9, and then you can divide both sides by 10. Cancels out on the left. You get x equals 9 over 10. Alrighty, number 5. It just says solve for W, and the equation is P equals 2L plus 2W. So because we want to solve for this W, what we want to do first is subtract 2L. You always want to get rid of the thing that's added or subtracted onto the variable, and then after get rid of the number that's attached to it. So what we end up with is those 2L's cancel out, and we get P minus 2L equals 2W. Now we can divide both sides by 2. The 2's cancel, and you're left with P minus 2L over 2 equals W. Now, I want to make a little note here. This is kind of a test-taking strategy in a way. You need to put parentheses around the top and bottom in order for the computer to grade it correctly. So the way that you would write that is P minus 2L divided by 2. That's how you would enter it on the computer if that were your answer. I might need to do like half tonight and then half on Wednesday. Okay. Number 6 is 8x plus 6 greater than or equal to negative 19 plus 3x. So first things first, we want to get all of our x's on the same side of the inequality. And keep in mind, with inequalities, the thing to remember is if we divide or multiply by a negative, you need to flip the inequality. So we're going to subtract 3x from both sides. The 3x's cancel. You get 5x plus 6 is greater than or equal to negative 19. Subtract 6 from both sides. The 6's cancel. You get 5x is greater than or equal to negative 25. And then we can divide by 5. And since we divided by a positive, it stays in the same direction. So you get x is greater than or equal to negative 5. Now this next question is, I'll give you a moment to write this down because the next question I need to share my other screen to show you. All right, let me go ahead and share my other screen now. Here we go. Okay. So this one says match each graph with its corresponding interval notation. So what we want to do is we want to check which of these intervals matches the corresponding line graph. So if we're looking at these line graphs, our first one has a solid circle on 3, which should immediately clue you in that it needs a bracket. So looking at our interval notation, our actual numbers, which one has a bracket and a -3? B, exactly. So automatically, just by looking at a few pieces of key information, you can actually find out which one is the right answer. Next, we look at our next one is 1 and an open circle. So that's going to be 1 with a parenthesis. Which one has 1 with a parenthesis? A. Exactly. Good. And next we look at -2. The only one that has -2 is D. So that leaves your last one as C. So this particular problem is really simple with a process of elimination. It makes that question a lot easier. So I would just do that type of question by process of elimination just to get it done really fast and not have to worry about it. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about that? All right. So next one. Number 8. This one says the length of a rectangle is 4 inches longer than it is wide. If the perimeter is 32 inches, what are the dimensions of the rectangle? So we want to know what the width and the length are for this particular problem. So if it says that we have a length, and I actually didn't label that, that said length, I meant to label that, it looks kind of bad. But the length is 4 inches longer than the width. That means we can write that as L equals 4 inches longer than the width, W plus 5. When something's longer, you're going to be adding to it, right? So our formula for the perimeter is P equals 2L plus 2W. And yes, that's perfect. It is W, oh, plus 4. You're right. So what's going to happen is our W is going to stay the same, and we're going to take the W plus 4, and that's going to get plugged in for L. We are also going to plug in the 32 into our P. So we end up with 32 equals 2 W plus 4 plus 2W. So now, first things first, we're going to solve this for W. Distribute your 2. You get 2W plus 8 plus 2W. Combine your like terms. The 2W's gives you 4W. Plus 8 equals 32. Subtract 8 to get 24 equals 4W, and then divide by 4. So W is 6. But now we need to find also the width. So we already have the formula for width here, or for length, excuse me. So you would have length equals 6 plus 4, which means the length is 10. Alrighty, let's go on to question 9. So 9 says a retired couple invested $5,000 in bonds at a simple interest rate of 8%. At the end of 1 year, how much interest did they receive on their investment? So this is your simple interest formula, which is I equals P RT. So our goal here is to label each of these numbers they gave us with the appropriate variable. So the amount invested is your P. That's your principal, which is essentially your starting value. The rate is, of course, R. And then 1 year is T for time. So we're going to plug all of those in. We get I equals 5,000 times 8% times 1. So we need to change 8% into a decimal by moving the decimal place over 2 places to the left. And we get 5,000 times 0.08 times 1. Okay, so 5,000 times 0.08 is, I believe, 400, maybe, right? Which times 1 is, of course, 400. So it says at the end of the year, how much interest did they receive? This is how much interest they received. Now, if they were to ask how much was in the accounts, this is how much they received. If they asked you, received how much in the account, very good. Yes, you would add them up. So you would have 5,000 plus 400 to get 5,400. Excellent work. Okay. Like I said, I think I'm going to have to I'll stop at 15 questions because there are 30. I'm really struggling tonight. I don't know what the hell's going on. Okay. So number 10. It says, oh, I don't really like this question. The context of it is really bad. But anyway, so someone is collecting 35 eggs. And they're bringing them home. They're getting inspected, and they are saying that there's 20% of them are broken. How many of them were still good? So they're not asking how many were broken, they're asking how many were good. So there are 2 ways you could do this. I'm going to show you what I think is the easiest way. If you want to do it a different way, that's totally fine. But in my opinion, I would first find out how much 20% is. And the way that you do that is by doing 35 times 20%, which is really, if you move the decimal over, 35 times 0.2, which actually gives you 7. So that's the amount of broken eggs. If you want to find the amount of how many are good, you would simply subtract 7 from 35. Exactly. Very good. So that would give you 28. I guess we could say 28 good eggs. This is sounding like Willy Wonka, but okay. Alrighty. Number 11, yes. Okay. Number 11 has a few parts on it. But I'm going to go ahead and explain the parts that I'm not going to show you. It's relatively straightforward, this one. So they give us an equation, and hopefully you remember graphing. And it says complete the table. So this is the table they give us. They put a 0 here, and they put a 0 here. So what you need to do is plug 0 into the opposing variable, or into the variable that they tell you to, right? So you would end up with, for this first one, it would be negative x minus 2 times 0 equals negative 2. So of course the negative 2 times 0 goes away. You get negative x equals negative 2. And if you divide by negative 1, what does x end up equaling? It equals 2. So you would just type 2 into the box there. Next, we've got 0 in x. So we have negative 0 minus 2y equals negative 2. The negative 0, of course, doesn't matter. It goes away. We get negative 2y equals negative 2. And then divide by negative 2. So y equals 1. So that was part 1. Part 2, all that part 2 really wants you to do is just graph the 2 points that you made on the xy plane. So your first point would be 2, 0, and then you would also graph 0, 1, which what that looks like is the following. First one is 2, 0, that's a point right there. Next one is 0, 1, which is a point right there. And it should draw a line for you, actually, in the system. Alrighty. Next question is a slope question. Oops. So that one is 8/7, 5/4, and then we've got, why would they make such a complicated question for this one? Oh well. 22/7 and 11/4. Now, the formula for slope is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And this is one of the ones that you really need to have memorized. So what you want to do is label your points, x1, y1, x2, y2, and then from there, plug them into um, your formula. So you have m equals 11/4 minus 5/4 divided by 22/7 minus 8/7. And then you simplify. 11 minus 5 is 6/4. 22 minus 8 is going to be 14/7. And now, since we have a fraction divided by a fraction, we're going to keep, change, flip. Don't forget to do this when you've got those fractions over each other, okay? So what this looks like is 6/4 times 7/14. And we can then simplify this by simplifying the 14 and the 6. By 2, that's 7. And by 2, that's 3. And then the 7 and the 7 actually will also cancel out. So you're left with 3/4 is your slope. And as I said, please feel free to let me know if you have questions. Okay, number 13. We've got negative 3x plus 8y equals negative 16. And what this one wants you to do is find the slope. So in order to find the slope, we need to solve for y. So we're going to add 3x to both sides to get 8y equals 3x minus 16. And then you divide everything by 8 to get y equals 3 over 8x minus 2. So your slope is 3 over 8. Alrighty. So number 14, and I think actually 15 as well are both ones that I need to show you on the computer. So I'm going to go ahead and show you those on the computer. Oh, did I accidentally turn my video on? Whoops. Okay. Okay, so number 14 is a special one. It says, write the equation of the line shown. Be sure to use the correct variable. So we have two different types of, I guess you could say, equations that are possible in this one. We have x equals a number and y equals a number. So in this case, you want to check what variable does it go through. So the line is going through your y-axis, which means that it's right. It's going to be y equals -2. Perfect. And the reason why it's crossing the y-axis at -2. If it was a vertical line, it would be x equals some number. Okay, let's look at the next one. This says a line has, okay, I have no idea what this question is asking. A line has a slope of 2 and contains the point -1, -1. So first thing it says is plot the point of the graph. So just plot your point. So -1, -1 is down here. Where's our point? Okay. Plot the point in the graph. Use the slope to find two other points, one immediately to the left and one immediately to the right. Then graph the line. And it says, nope, plot the 3 points and then draw the line using the line tool. So here's what's going to happen. Our slope is -2, right? So thinking of slope being rise over run, you're going to rise -2, which means go down 2, and then go to the right 1. And that's a point to the right. You can also go up 2 and go to the left 1. As long as your points make a straight line among them, they all work. So your left point would be, oops, -2, +1. And your right point would be 0, -3. And the last step after filling in the points and filling in these points is to actually draw the line. So you go back to draw the line tool and then just click on 2 of your points. And you have drawn the line. Alrighty, does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, so we got through half of the review, it looks like. Yes. Um, because there are 30 questions. So we got through half of the review. So what we will do is we'll stop there for tonight. And then on Wednesday, we will finish the second half of the review. What I highly recommend doing is looking at these problems. If there were any that you were struggling on, bring those to next class. That way we can go over them together again. Okay? So aside from that, that is it for tonight. I hope that you all have a great rest of your evening, and I will see you on Wednesday.